And now, from Raw and SmackDown to premium live events and retro rewinds, this is WrestleVision.
Welcome to WrestleVision. My name is Luke, and this is the show where we take a look at everything happening in WWE, from Raw and SmackDown to premium live events, creative decisions, and all the little details that make wrestling so great. So, let's get into it this week, and we will be covering SmackDown from the 3rd of July 2026, and it was a bit of a shorter episode this week, and that is because it was pre-recorded for the 4th of July weekend. You know, people need their time off, unfortunately, and we get a bit of a shorter show for that. But hey, look, SmackDown hasn't been the best for a few weeks now, so I wasn't expecting anything too grand. But let's get into the show either way. You know, we open up, obviously, with Michael Cole and Corey Graves on the commentary this week. And, yeah, I'm a fan of Corey Graves. And I'm a fan of Michael Cole. I mean, who isn't at this point? He's been around for so long. But Corey Graves, yeah, I know. This is the first episode, guys. So, obviously, we're going to be moving forward from here. I know that we just had Night of Champions. And I didn't cover it because, again, first episode. So, we're going to start here. And we're going to move forward through the year and get onto all the PLEs and the Raws and the SmackDowns every week, and we're going to just talk about them, and I'm going to give you my opinions on them. Now, my opinion might not be everybody's favourite. That's fair, but it is mine, and I look at all the other little details that maybe some people don't talk about. You know, I like the aesthetics of wrestling. I like the outfits that our wrestlers wear, and I like the pyro and the entrances, and they're the sort of things that I would comment on as well. As well as the show and the storylines and creative decisions and kind of what's happening every week, basically. So they're the sorts of things that we're going to be talking about. But this week, we're talking about SmackDown. So, SmackDown opened up with the new WWE Undisputed Champion, Sami Zayn, making his entrance. And I'm a fan. I am a fan of Sami Zayn being this champion. I've liked Sami Zayn. I mean, God, I've woken up to his theme song on my phone multiple times because it's such a good tune and it puts me in such a good mood. But I know that there's a lot of people that aren't a fan of Sami Zayn being the champion. That's fine. You know, like, I get it. People aren't going to like Sami. They think he's a bit of a transitional champion, or that's the way it's going to go anyway. And, you know, I think he might hang on to it for a little bit longer. I'd love to see the return of Kevin Owens at some point. I'm not too sure where he's at on his recovery journey. Cody Rhodes is obviously still in the picture here. And we'll get on to the Cody Rhodes Jey Uso match towards the end. And spoiler alert, can't say I'm a huge fan of Jey Uso. It's probably an understatement, but we will get there. But yes, Kevin Owens coming back would have been cool. I know that there was a video that was posted online, I think, of Kevin Owens, you know, in the locker room or at the back of wherever they were filming that week, and he sort of gave his congratulations to Sami Zayn, and Becky Lynch was there with the Sami Zayn real good guy, last real good guy t-shirt and things like that. So yeah, I mean, it's good to see that the other wrestlers are behind him, and I mean, it's no secret that 10 opportunities to try and get this done is quite a long while. But hey, look, we're here now. And I'm a fan. I'm going to enjoy this. I just hope that they leave it on him for a while and they don't give it back to Cody. And I'm a Cody Rhodes fan as well. Don't get me wrong. But at this point, I don't feel like Cody needs the championship. He doesn't need it. You know, same as Rhea Ripley. There's a lot of people in WWE that at this point just don't need the belt. Simple as that. But I feel like the creative direction of WWE is the safe bet pretty much all the time. And they're probably shaking right now with the fact that Sami Zayn's even got the championship. That's not because they can't trust him, but it's because, you know, they did this with Jey Uso. And look how that went. It didn't go down too well. I do wish WWE would take more chances with people like Sami Zayn, just to mix it up a little bit, you know, because it does get kind of boring watching the same person do the same type of promo every single week and the same type of match. But we're going to move forward anyway. That's enough of that. So Sami talked about how people in the arena are here to ride or die with the last good guy. Sami said all the support has touched him from the bottom of his heart, and he thanks everyone. Sami acknowledged how he's been booed out of the building for the last few months, and said it was ironic because those same people booing were people wanting to see him as a champion a few years ago. I mean, that's fandom, isn't it? I think that, in most sports, you're going to get fickle fans, people that will basically just become part of the herd of sheep, and they'll follow sort of the way the crowd's going. A couple of weeks ago, everyone's been booing Sami. Well, they've been booing him for a few months, to be fair. And now everybody is cheering him. And it did make me laugh because I thought to myself, I wonder how Sami Zayn actually feels in this moment. Every single week. I think it did start with a point of him genuinely asking the question to himself, why are people booing me every week all of a sudden? Like, what have I actually done wrong? And I think that was the creative push. The fact that he was kind of just there doing things, winning matches, and people were like, yeah, but we want to give these other guys an opportunity, especially when he was in the US title picture with, Carmelo Hayes and what's his bloody name? Ilya Dragunov. That's it. When they were in the picture and Sami Zayn's winning and he done the open challenge and kind of brought that back, I really enjoyed that. I love the open challenge and the fact that we get to see something like the US Championship up for grabs every single week. But it was kind of that sort of period where people really started to turn on him because there was no real direction for him, in my opinion. And I think now that there is a direction for him and he's won the championship, people are like, well, we're not going to boo the champion. And he's kind of in this sort of in-between heel, face. I think he's meant to be a heel. But we really don't know what is going to happen here. And I think that is the best thing for Sami right now, is that unpredictability, because then it makes the championship unpredictable. It makes the story unpredictable, and we'll get on to sort of who is in that picture a bit later. But ultimately, yeah, I think that's where we're at. It's good for the brand for it to be unpredictable, because SmackDown has been quite predictable for quite a while now. And Sami being the face of the brand, be it temporarily, is not a bad thing. So Sami said he can be petty to all those people who turn their backs on him. He said he can ask them to kiss my ass. He said he won't be petty because he's a good guy. He said people told him to be more mean or cutthroat. He said he didn't listen. And he said that he did it his way and he did it the right way. Now, that's what I'm saying. That's sort of in between a heel and a face. We don't really know. He's called himself a good guy, which is, classic heel tactics. I'm a great guy. What are you talking about? You guys should love me. And what have I done wrong and all this? And the heel turn was cleverly done, because I feel like what's actually happened is that there's a lot of people talking about banking in on moments and sort of cashing in, excuse the pun, on certain moments that happen. Look at Chad Gable right now. I know we're going a bit off subject here, but everyone's saying that after the El Grande match that they need to cash in on Chad Gable basically being at the height of his popularity right now. I don't think they necessarily are, but that's a story for another day. But what they've done here is Sami's getting the boos and they've gone, okay, so how can we turn this into a story? And I think they've actually done a really good job, because ultimately now he's the WWE champion because of it, and it's still continuing. And I think that is a really safe place to be, ironically, because it is so unpredictable. You're sitting in a period where people can hate him, people can love him, and it doesn't really matter either way. This isn't like Cody. Like with Cody being champion, when people start to hate him, it's like, whoa, okay, people really don't like this guy. And I know that he's had boos in the past and things like that, but we get to a point where we sort of ask the question, oh, okay, maybe we should be taking the belt off of Cody right now because people just aren't getting on with him. But with Sami, that doesn't matter, because ultimately people could boo him all the way out of the stadium and he's still the champion and it still plays into his character. And then the people that cheer him are the real ones that stuck with him. So he says, So I like this character. I like the story that they're trying to build or have built with Sami Zayn. And it really works for me, to be honest with you. But moving back onto what Sami was talking about in his promo at the beginning of SmackDown, he said he can tell all of them to kiss my ass again. He said he won't because this is a celebration. Sami soaked in the Sami chants and he said, we are celebrating Sami, the new WWE champion. He said, we settled the debate that Sami Zayn will go down as one of the greats. Sami said he is a WrestleMania main eventer and Grand Slam champion, and no amount of booing, hate, or noise will take that away from him. Now, if you want my opinion on Sami Zayn as a wrestler, I'll give it to you. Blue Thunderbomb, for me, is one of the smoothest looking finishers in wrestling right now. for me, it's probably one of my favourite, and that might be a very unpopular opinion, but every time I see it happen, I really, really enjoy it. And the one thing about Sami Zayn that I really like is his resilience. Now, I've compared him in the past to Shawn Michaels, and before you snap my arm or bite my head off, I'm not saying that he's anything like Shawn Michaels. You know what? Shawn Michaels is one of the greats, one of the greatest of all time. But when I was growing up watching wrestling, and he said Sami Zayn then, what Shawn Michaels did was he had that resilience, he had that heart. It was that never say die mentality. And I feel like Sami Zayn has that. He's at least had that in pockets. And I've seen it myself. And I always thought that, you know, we're always looking at successors. Look at Ober and Brock right now. You know, we're sort of WWE are in a position where they're almost trying to replicate the roster, or at least replace, you know, big guy for big guy, you know, short guy for short guy, for argument's sake. You know, when Ray goes, Penta will come in. I know that he's already there, but you get what I'm trying to say. As like the most favourite luchador masked wrestler, that will be Penta. And Oba will take over the mantle of what Brock has been holding for the last 20 years. But I think with Sami, I'm not saying that he'll overtake Shawn Michaels, but I think that there is a good chance that he could become that Shawn Michaels type of character. I think that the way that Shawn Michaels presented himself was he was a face, obviously not all the time, but then there were periods of people that hated him because he was so arrogant and, you know, I think I'm cute, and he loved himself. And people loved that. They loved the presentation, they loved the music, totally understandable. And I think with Sami, it's not as intense, obviously, as what Shawn Michaels brought to wrestling, but I feel like that his in-ring is very, very similar. And, you know, I just enjoy watching Sami wrestle. And again, I go back to that sort of resilience that I feel that Sami brings to the table. It's very Shawn Michaels-esque. That's how I see it. So we go back into the ring, and former Undisputed Champion Cody Rhodes comes to the ring. Sami asks Cody what he wants to talk about, which was funny because, you know, I'm a bit sick of that, to be honest with you. Like I said, I'm a big Cody fan, but so insert city name here. What do you want to talk about? It's like so forced. And I know that we all know this. And this is kind of one of the things that I hate about WWE at the moment, is the forcing the catchphrase onto the fans. You didn't have to force anything back in our day, if you know what I'm talking about. You know, Attitude Era, Ruthless Aggression Era. You didn't really have to force any of that stuff. It all came very natural, and the fans picked it up and ran with it, and almost handed it back to the superstar and said, "This is your thing now. This is what you will say." You know, the most obvious one is Stone Cold. He said 316, and the fans took that and, you know, turned up every week with the signs and shouting it at him as he walked into the ring and made his entrances. And the fans were like, no, you're going to have this as your catchphrase. And it's like one of the most famous, most popular catchphrases of all time in all of wrestling. So don't force it on the fans. You've said it now for like a year or longer probably. And, you know, when you're having a conversation with somebody and you go, oh, you know Cody Rhodes? And they go, what do you want to talk about, Cody Rhodes? No one says that. Nobody says that. I don't even know if there's any T-shirts on the WWE website. I mean, there probably is, to be fair, but, you know, I don't see anyone buying them. I have a Cody Rhodes T-shirt, but it isn't that. It's just a picture of him. But, yeah, I'm just not a fan of the catchphrase, and I just hate the fact that they're rammed down our throats so much. I don't need it. But back into the ring. Cody and Sami reminded him of when he won the title and how Sami was the first person to come and celebrate with Cody. Cody said he wanted to return the favour and say, "Congratulations, champ." Sami accepted Cody's handshake and Cody started to leave, and Sami asked him, "Is that it?" and to come back. Sami told Cody to drop the American Nightmare act because he knows Cody is here for more. Sami said he knows that he has something Cody wants, and he told Cody to be honest and tell him why he's out here. And then all of a sudden, main event Jey Uso makes his entrance. Now we're on Jey Uso. I want to give you my thoughts on Jey Uso. And again, you might not know this. This might be the first time you're ever even hearing of me. But in that case, I will give you my opinion on Jey Uso. I can't stand him. I'm enjoying the Bloodline story that we're doing, even though we've had it for so long now, and it's Bloodline 2.0, 3.0, whatever the bloody hell it is at this point, whatever iteration of the Bloodline that we have now. And the story's building, and I'm enjoying it. But the thing that I can't stand about Jey Uso is that he doesn't bring anything new to the table, and hasn't for about 2 years now. The moveset in the ring is terrible. The entrance has worn thin. I know that if you're there in person, because I've been to the live shows, I went to a Raw taping in London last year with the, this was during the John Cena heel turn, and I think Jey Uso was there, and it was a yeet fest, you know. And don't get me wrong, I enjoyed doing it. When you're there, you kind of get soaked up in the atmosphere and everyone's doing it, and you go, oh yeah, you know, and the music's kind of catchy, so I get it. But it's totally worn thin now, and running it back all the fucking time, like just stop. And as I say, the moveset that he brings into the ring is the same every single week, and it's made up of about 4 moves. And I wouldn't even call them moves, really, because I think one of them's a slap. I've actually written down the moves that were performed in the match that we're going to get to later with Jey Uso. So I'll tell you what, we'll get onto that later, and we'll run through that list, and we'll just have a conversation about the repetitive nature of Jey Uso. Ironically, I do have a Jey Uso figure in my living room next to my plant. It's a little main event. Not main event Jey Uso, but you know the main event carded figures? Yeah, it's one of those. I think it was like a tenner from Smith's, and I bought it for a laugh because I knew how much it annoyed me. And people were coming round, and, you know, it was like, well, let's just put him there. Let's just hide him there with his little yeet top on. People would be like, what the hell was that? And I'm like, don't. But yeah, I do have that. I do have other figures as well, but Jey Uso has a place next to the plant. So, but anyway, moving on with the show. So, Jey Uso made his entrance and interjected the conversation. Jey hugged Sami and called him his dog. Sami and Jey did their secret Bloodline handshake, which got a nice reaction from the crowd. And Jey said he won't run it back because it's all about Sami Zayn now. Jey said Sami deserves it, but Sami knows why he's here. He said this was Bloodline business and a warning shot, again with the bloody quotes and catchphrases, warning shot, bow and all that. That's another one that won't get over. You've got yeet, mate. And I know that you're probably trying to move away from that. I don't know why you would, because that's basically all you've got at the moment. But we're trying to add more into the fold here for some reason. Jey said that he needs to bring the title back to the family. And Cody asked Jey what year this is, which I thought was funny, actually, because there's a lot of chatter online about, oh, we're running back the Bloodline again, and people are getting a bit sick of it. I am enjoying the storyline, I have to say. The only thing I would say is that I don't know what's now happening with Jacob Fatu. Big Jacob Fatu fan, but now he's taking this backseat. I'm fully expecting him to turn on Roman at some point, so we'll just have to wait for that one to happen. But yeah, this little line here about what year is it, you know, that did make me laugh. So Cody talked about Jey already winning the world title since the Bloodline days, and when did Jey revert to running errands to the tribal chief? Cody said it's time to talk about his rematch, and Sami said he never stabbed Cody in the back when he was champ, and now it's time. Sami told Jey that the title was already in the family due to him being an honorary Uso, and Sami started to walk away, but was stopped by interim SmackDown GM Adam Pearce. That's because obviously Nick Aldis was suspended for some reason. I don't know why, it was all on camera. Adam said he's happy to be the GM after Nick Aldis was suspended. Yes, Pearce said his first order of business is to find Sami Zayn's next opponent. And I love that these GMs can just I know that he's obviously acting in, but they're very different. Nick and Adam Pearce are very, very different in the dynamics and the way that they run their shows. And it does make me laugh when one goes over to the other or stands in for the other one. It is running their way, and this is a very Adam Pearce thing. He's very abrupt. He just walks in, does and says whatever the hell he feels like, and Yeah, he's already making waves on the SmackDown roster with lining up Sami Zayn with a title defense already. Sami wondered if he had a say in this SummerSlam opponent, and Adam said, "Who said anything about SummerSlam?" Adam said that he's going to have Sami wrestle on Monday Night Raw, to defend the title. Pierce booked Cody versus Jey for later in the show to find out a number one contender. And the one thing that kind of irks me with this is that, and I'm, this is kind of me being a real now and talking about creative and that kind of stuff. And yes, it's very easy to just pick them two, but what makes both of them number one contenders, or number two and number three, if you will? Where are the other wrestlers? Where are the other people that get a shot at this? I mean, Cody makes sense because he was pinned. So, you could argue there's a rematch. Obviously, Gunther is just not in the picture now, I'm assuming. But when did Jey Uso come into it? Just because he asks for it? Oh, that's it. Because if Jey goes on to win, then, people are going to have an issue with that because they're going to be like, well, what have you actually done? Apart from beat Cody. I don't know. It's just something I have an issue with. If you have an answer for that, please let me know. So then we go backstage and we have Kathy Kelly, who's interviewing Charlotte Flair. Kelly asked Flair why she interfered in Jade Cargill's match. And Charlotte said she just returned the favour after Jade interfered in her business. Alexa Bliss shows up and said she was surprised that Flair showed up at Night of Champions. Alexa said the heads up would have been nice. And Charlotte talked about Alexa teaming up with Tiffy without informing her. Tiffany Stratton showed up and thanked Charlotte for her help. Chelsea Green cut in between to act friendly to everyone. And Charlotte said she'll see Green and Tiffany out there. Green said they'll see Flair out there. And then Charlotte made her entrance. To be honest with you, I think that Chelsea Green is probably my favourite female wrestler on the roster. I love her, honestly. I want her to win every week, and I know that that's probably not going to happen because she's constantly putting people over, and fucking power to her. But I do like the fact that she's kind of in and amongst it now with the bigger stars when we're talking about a title picture. I've heard some sort of whispers about it being just a Charlotte and Jade thing, which, yeah, it makes sense. But I would love to see Chelsea Green in there as well. I think that a triple threat would be really, really fun if we could get that done at SummerSlam. I don't think it would be difficult to put Chelsea in there, but obviously if she's siding with Tiffy at the moment, then you could blow up that dynamic. I suppose it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, but I did enjoy that. So that leads us into our first match of the night, and it's Charlotte Flair, Tiffany Stratton and Chelsea Green versus Jade Cargill, Meechin and B-Fab. And this went on for a total of 5 minutes and 38 seconds. Not very long. And speaking of Chelsea Green, in this match, she actually got something decent to do. Yes, she did take the pin, unfortunately, with Jade Cargill, B-Fab and Meechin defeating Chelsea Green, Tiffany Stratton and Charlotte Flair via pinfall. But yeah, I enjoyed this match. It was okay. We're telling a story at the moment. It's not going to be anything great. And to be honest with you, I am not a big fan of Jade Cargill, B-Fab. I think Meechin's okay, but yeah, Jade Cargill for me, I think she's such a sloppy wrestler, especially when we look at Night of Champions. Well, not especially, but just because it's recent and sitting watching that and watching her match, she just makes mistakes and she actually hurts people in the ring. And that's what it looks like anyway. I haven't actually seen any receipts yet. I'm not sure if people are too afraid to give her a receipt. I really don't know. But I just don't find Jade Cargill very intimidating. Don't get me wrong, she looks the part. But just because you look the part doesn't mean you are the part. And I feel like that they're trying to make something of her because she looks a bit like a superhero, with the abs and the muscles and things like that. But yeah, I don't rate her. I think she's not a great wrestler. I think she's come on since she started, or since she came back, I should say. But for me, I'm just not a big fan of her at all. And I'd be quite happy if we saw a little bit less of her on TV, to be honest with you. However, the women's division with the injuries that we have and things like that at the moment with Rhea. And just in general, across the board, I feel like that we've got underused superstars. I mean, what the hell's happening with Jordan Grace? I don't even want to get started on that, but come on, like, what is going on? I'm not even going to mention about brands either. If you're going to sit there and say, oh, she's on Raw and she's on SmackDown, we know that doesn't really matter because it's just cross-pollinated every single week anyway. At this point, there's no draft, there's no brand split really, apart from the colours. One's red, one's blue. That's about the only split we've got. But yeah, there's other people that I would enjoy seeing in this storyline. But Chelsea Green, as I say, big fan. Would love to see her get some gold again. Charlotte Flair breaking away from Alexa Bliss and that tag team. I don't think that they need to fall out. It kind of maybe feels like that's the way they're going based on the conversation that they had in this episode today. But yeah, for me, I just think that they just need to naturally stop tagging and let Charlotte do her thing. And I'd like to see Alexa Bliss do her thing as well and sort of make waves in the singles category also. But I think that can't happen because if it did, they'd have to properly fall out. But, but just for the information, I'm getting all the... I have obviously watched the episode, but I'm getting all the information off of ProWrestling.net. So thank you to them for providing this information and the walkthroughs as well. The guy that's written it here just says on this match, a simple and effective match in slowly adding heat to the Jade Cargill and Baddie faction, who are meshing better and better week to week. They are, but I still don't really care about them. Yes, they've taken lumps, but they are also shrugging those off to en route to the big Flair versus Cargill clash. Meanwhile, Green benefits being the designated job person, as it will hopefully lead to Tiffany Stratton turning on her in the end. Yeah, there is that as well, I suppose, and obviously with the US title in the picture, I'd like to see Chelsea take the belt back on, if I'm honest, and I think a lot of people go back to that WWE Unreal segment with Road Dogg and Triple H talking about not knowing what to do with Chelsea. Oh, we can just put her on someone. And the pair of them were clueless, to be honest with you. But I did kind of side with Road Dogg. I'm like, dude, like, you've got something there, use it. Do you know what I mean? Don't be afraid to put her in positions and give her singles runs with different belts and things like that. And Triple H, I'm not a fan. But that's another conversation for another time. So we end up backstage again after that match, and Sami Zayn catches up with Adam Pearce, asking why he has to wrestle on Raw as a SmackDown wrestler. So this is what I mean. This is so silly because there isn't a brand split anymore. So just it doesn't matter. It's just like you have a Monday show, you have a Friday show. That's just it. That's what it is now. Pearce said he was giving Sami a great opportunity in a great city on a great show. Adam told Sami he'll see him on Monday and it will be great. And Adam quickly dipped out. Sami then ran up to Candice LeRae and comatose Johnny Gargano. Like, seriously, are we still doing this? I don't find this funny at all. I don't understand it, why their only job is to turn up every week and one of them lays there and one of them just talks into Johnny's ear and, Candice is going, oh, come on, Johnny. And it's just so stupid, man. Who was planked on a crate as usual. Sami credited Johnny with getting him the title win, and Sami called Johnny his rock, which is ironic, Sami then handed Candice his phone so he and Johnny can take a picture. I mean, I'm laughing, don't get me wrong. Those moments are funny, but when you take it for what it is and you realise that, there was a period where Johnny actually had a match and he came out and we was like, oh, Johnny's back. And now he's a blank again. So, yeah, kind of stupid, that one. Not really a massive fan of that, but they clearly have no idea what they're doing with these two. So it's just going to be comic relief for the foreseeable. Next up, we get the AAA Cruiserweight Champion Rey Fenix making his entrance and having a match with the AAA Latin American Champion El Hijo del Vikingo. And yeah, this was all right. I mean, classic lucha match. Do you know what I mean? I like Vikingo. I don't see much of him because I don't really watch a lot of AAA. I do watch the Triple Mania events when they're on and sort of the PLEs that they do. And I like Rey Fenix, but again, they brought him in. I thought that there was going to be a dynamic again with him and Penta, but Penta's kind of gone on his merry way with the IC title, and Rey Fenix has been, I don't want to say demoted to AAA, because AAA is great in its own right, but ultimately he's not on the regular main shows, apart from when he's defending these titles as he has done for the last few weeks. So, yeah, I don't know how I feel about it. Rey Fenix, I mean, there's a lot of luchadors there was a lot of luchadors at one point with the whole El Grande thing going on. And obviously you had Rayo and Bravo and then the other two as well on El Grande's side. But yeah, I mean, this match was okay. It ended via pinfall with Rey Fenix defeating El Hijo del Vikingo in 5 minutes and 24. So very short matches so far. We've only had sort of 5 minutes and what was the last one? Yeah, 5 minutes. 5 minutes and 38 and then 5 minutes and 24. So we've only had 10 minutes of wrestling so far. And, you know, I don't mind these more condensed shows, but I did think this was very short this week. And I've got to be honest, I prefer a longer show. Maybe not 3 hours because they're trying to fill the time, but just meet us in the middle. Just go a solid 2, I think would be fine. Every week I would take that. And they've written here about the dynamics of the match and sort of the wrestlers involved here. While I agree with Jason that it's getting a bit crazy across multiple companies with the amount of belt MacGuffins they introduce, I don't mind putting an exception on the AAA Cruiserweight title if that's the only title that's going to be defended on multiple shows. Yeah, I mean, I would actually like it if they brought the Cruiserweight title back because it gives an opportunity. It feels a little bit sparse at the moment that we don't have enough belts for all the wrestlers on the roster, which means we only get to see the same sort of people every week. You look at the US title, it's kind of like 3 people that are involved at the moment too. But yeah, I wouldn't say no if they wanted to introduce an actual Cruiserweight title back into WWE. Like I say, people like Carmelo Hayes, Ilya Dragunov, those kinds of sizes of people could absolutely compete for that. And you just got to sort of make it a little bit bigger than what it was because it was kind of just a low-end title before. But I wouldn't say no to it at all. It says here the AAA Cruiserweight title can serve as a substitute for the old WWE Cruiserweight title that pops in and out of the company. Yeah, there you go. Which can offer a match style that actually draws eyes. Exactly. This was a fun match. Vikingo continues to show he's the best high flyer in the world by doing things you don't see the best athletes do. And it's fun seeing him having fun being a heel these days. Rey Fenix, meanwhile, is someone I've called the best all-round strong style and high flyer dating back to 2015. I like him being presented on SmackDown as a champion too, as it will hopefully rehabilitate his image after being trapped in WWE C-show hell. Yeah, again, that's what I was just saying about sort of Rey Fenix being dumped to the bottom of the pile, to be honest with you. When he came into it, everybody knew that he was Penta's brother, and that they've obviously had this storied history with them being a tag team and stuff. And I thought we might sort of explore that. But as everybody knows, the tag team division is absolutely terrible at the minute. There isn't really anything going there. But yeah, I'll take this. I mean, I don't dislike seeing it every week. I really enjoy seeing the high-flying matches. It's probably one of my favourite styles. You know, I loved the El Grande versus El Grande match. I thought it was probably one of the best matches I've seen all year. I really, really enjoyed that. So I would not say no to having something like this kind of open challenge every week. You know, they say that they're fighting champions, and I think to myself a little bit, well, who isn't a fighting champion? You know what I mean? If you're a champion and you sit there doing nothing with it, like Liv Morgan's done for God knows how long, then that's just bad writing on WWE's part. They just have no idea what they're doing half the time. So to be a fighting champion, I think is just the easiest thing to do. The only problem is then if you do that every single week with every single wrestler, it does become a bit mundane. So you obviously need the breaks and the stories in between. I understand that. But yeah, I enjoy the I suppose you could call it an open challenge here in the sort of crossover with the AAA stars. It's just a shame that the way that WWE treats their sort of collaboration partners, shall we call them, in TNA and AAA, they seem to hoard and take everything for themselves, and it kind of only makes AAA and TNA look weaker, in my opinion. I think that yes, you're giving them exposure on a larger platform and a larger show. You know, I don't watch TNA because I don't even know how to watch TNA, to be honest with you, in the UK. If someone could let me know, that'd be great, because I'd be interested in watching it. I know that AAA is obviously on YouTube from time to time, or it's on every week at least. I think I'm not 100% sure on that. But yeah, AAA, WWE are kind of like the consumer of all consumers. They just eat things whole, and obviously we've had, you know, the WWE guys and gals take on the AAA belts and the TNA belts, and they just kind of hold them, and yeah, it just makes the other brands look weak, and I understand that sort of partnership there. It doesn't seem very fair to me, unfortunately. But moving on from that, we go backstage again, and Kathy Kelly is interviewing Julia about getting attacked by Blake Monroe in her last match. Julia said she doesn't back down from any fight, and she said that if Monroe stopped being a coward, she'll fight her anytime, anywhere. Kiana James walked in and did a golf clap. Kiana said Julia only got lucky a few weeks ago. Blake Monroe showed up out of nowhere and basically slammed Julia into a production crate. Kiana James tried to gloat on Julia, but Monroe also tossed her into the crate as well. And this is another couple of wrestlers that, you know, I'm glad that we're seeing Blake Monroe. I have never seen her prior to WWE. I'd never seen any of her work. I think she was in AEW. If I'm wrong on that, please correct me, but I'm pretty sure she was. I didn't see her in AEW. I'm not a watcher of AEW, unfortunately. I would like to. Again, access in the UK is a little bit different. So if anyone can enlighten me on that, that would be brilliant. But I'm enjoying Blake Monroe here. I enjoyed the little segment last week in the ring. I like the way she looks. She's got a good personality from what I can tell. I mean, we had so many months of video packages with her that it was hyping me up for this character. Unfortunately, I think where they've gone wrong is they've put her in a program with Kiana James and Julia. Since Julia's been on the main roster, she's not been the most popular, and all I hear is good things about her. All I hear is people praising Julia, that they love her, but WWE seems to not want to give her the push, really, into the main event picture. She's just kind of floating around with Kiana James, and Kiana James is amazing. I mean, God, she was in the Elimination Chamber, was it last year or this year? And she was bloody brilliant. I thought she was really, really good, and I really enjoyed her in the Rumble as well. And again, she could definitely get into the main event picture, but unfortunately, we don't know a lot about her yet, and we need to know more about her personality and who she is before we can make a choice emotionally on getting behind her, really. But I like what I see so far. And, you know, all three of these women, I think, deserve a bit more of a push. Sort of, let's just evaporate whatever vortex they're in at the moment and just put them in storylines with some of the other women on the roster. Get them involved, you know? No.1 contender matches for belts and things like that. Tag teams, feuds, blend the feuds. You're writing it. And this is the thing, you know. I hear a lot of people saying, you know, well, that wouldn't make sense. Well, look, we're writing stories here for a TV show. And I think that you can try and make sense of something, even if you feel it doesn't make sense. It's your story at the end of the day. You know, if you're a writer, you're creative, you can do whatever the hell you want to do with your superstars. And I think that this vortex that they're in isn't really doing anything for anybody. I feel like they should just keep them together, but like I say, pair them up and sort of make the women's division feel larger by putting more women in certain programs rather than separating all the women up, because it doesn't really, to me, it doesn't really feel like the women's programs at the moment are that great. Obviously, the focus is on the Cargill, Stratton, Green, Charlotte, Bliss kind of storyline, which is a little oversaturated anyway, in my opinion. But yeah, I think we should definitely just start doing more with the women here. Because they have become second fiddle a little bit again, unfortunately, and that is sad, because I think that they have a lot to offer. There's a lot of good women on the roster, and yeah, it's a shame that we end up getting these storylines, and equally for the men as well. It's the same, you know. I don't know if it's too saturated, the roster in general, because this company doesn't seem to really know what to do with a lot of their good stars. A lot of my favourites as well, unfortunately, but hopefully we're getting there. So then we get a video package of the Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins confrontation from Raw. Now, I just want to touch on this. I know that we're talking about SmackDown this week, but as this is the first episode, I didn't get a chance to talk about Raw last week, and I won't talk about it in its entirety. We will move forward from this point onwards. But that promo that Seth Rollins gave was, in my opinion, amazing. I was totally drawn in by the way that he just articulated his words. And, oh, mate, that to me is what wrestling is all about. That type of promo there, and the story and the sort of background and the context that he gave us to put us in that moment right there and then with very little else. You know, there was no reason that Seth Rollins should have been there standing in front of Roman Reigns. But what he did in that promo is give us that reason. And I am totally here for it. I'm totally on board for this match. I cannot wait to see these two go at it. Whether it's the last dance or not, I'm just absolutely buzzing to see these two greats absolutely hammer the shit out of each other, basically. And this is kind of what we deserved, I think, from the Cody-Randy match. You know, we didn't get any sort of chatter about the legacy or any of that kind of stuff. And it's a shame. I don't know why we did that, why we felt like we had to insert Pat McAfee into that storyline. Really, really frustrating. I'm not a hater of Pat McAfee. I just didn't enjoy that storyline. And I don't even know if it is worthy of being called a storyline, because it was literally a couple of segments over a couple of weeks to try and throw something together, which they didn't know. And what Seth Rollins, and to be fair, what Creative have done here is they've essentially shown us that they are capable of doing this. They are capable of bringing up the old storyline and bringing it right to the present day, so that we actually care about these old histories that these wrestlers have with one another. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to the Seth Rollins and the Roman Reigns match, and roll on SummerSlam, man, because yeah, that promo really, really impressed me. But we go backstage and Royce Keys meets up with Jacob Fatu and Jimmy Uso, and Keys mocked Jacob for following Roman's orders. Jimmy said he and Jacob are on a mission to snuff out Solo Sikoa. That was funny, that, because I can just imagine Roman Reigns sitting there in his warehouse or something. I'm sending you boys on a mission. And yeah, it was a funny choice of words, that. But Jimmy said if Royce doesn't know where Solo is, that he and Jacob can handle family business on their own. Royce said blood don't make you family, which it does, unfortunately. Don't know why he chose those choice of words. It probably would have been better to say blood doesn't only make you family, or only blood doesn't make you family, or something along those lines. But yeah, he said blood don't make you family, loyalty does. Royce said he's been Jacob's day one for the last 14 years. He said he's always been loyal to Jacob, so as long as he's concerned, I'm your family. And Jimmy said, not no more, right, Jacob? Jacob didn't answer and walked off with Jimmy. I don't actually know if there's any truth in this. Like legitimately, are they friends? Is this something that we've made for the show? I don't know, but it kind of flip-flops. It kind of comes in and out, and we've obviously touched on this before and had this conversation. And again, for me, Royce Keys is one of those wrestlers that needs to be doing more. I mean, he's the fucking size of the guy. Do you know what I mean? I think that, personally, I really like him, and I think that he should be up there fighting for belts. I would love to put him in the Trick Williams storyline at some point with the US title picture, just to sort of get him a foot in the door with some gold. But hey, he's going to get sucked into the bloodline vortex, and this kind of plays into what I said earlier about Jacob turning on Roman at some point. I think the Solo's going to get his way, and we're going to have this kind of bloodline thing going on, or a turn at a big PLE from Jacob at some point, and it's going to be detrimental to Roman. I think we can probably all see that coming, but yeah, that would be cool. ProWrestling.net have written here, the background between Jacob and Royce is legit. Oh, there you go. They've been travelling and wrestling in the same indie promotions for the last 2 decades. There you go. And I'm not reading ahead. I'm reading it as it comes through. So that is cool to know that they do actually have, you know, some sort of background. And again, knowing that stuff, even though I know that a lot of people don't like to break the kayfabe and sort of live in the storylines, I actually don't mind finding out this stuff. And yeah, that kind of solidifies that storyline a little bit more for me now. First time I saw Jacob Fatu wrestle was at an all-pro wrestling show in Daly City, where Royce Keys also had a match. Royce and Jacob wrestled on the same card at pretty much every APW show I went to. This was also the same indie promotion Cody Rhodes wrestled at, so they can easily weave him into the picture if they want. Interesting. Yeah, could do. But we've already had Cody Bloodline, so I'm not interested in seeing that personally. But moving on from that, we then got the WWE United States Champion Trick Williams and his manager, Lil Yachty, making their entrance. And this made me laugh, actually, because Lil Yachty's clearly and obviously a wrestling fan. He was always on camera sort of before he got intertwined with this Trick Williams storyline. And now he's a part of the story. Now he's a part of the company. And I'm actually really enjoying him. As celebrities go, I actually enjoy the Yachty story and him being present because I actually think he's good on the mic. He isn't over the top. He isn't crap at what he's doing. It's actually very good. And the promo that he cut on Mello in this particular segment, I actually thought was really well done. Really well paced. Very clear and concise. Told the story. Moved us on to the next point. And yeah, man, 5 stars for Yachty because I'm actually really enjoying him being the mouthpiece for Trick Williams at the moment. I don't think Trick Williams needs one, but it is an interesting dynamic. And yeah, I'm enjoying this. But before they could say anything, former US champion Carmelo Hayes made his entrance. And Melo said it was time to get to business. Melo noted that Ricky Saints couldn't get the job done on Saturday, and it was time to run things back between him and Trick if Trick's bad about it. Just touching on the match at Night of Champions with Ricky Saints. Look, I know the crowd weren't hot on it, and, you know, that's no secret. Because all you have to do is just listen and you can literally hear every bit of breathing in the match. But I didn't hate this match. I thought it was pretty decent, to be fair. I like Ricky Saints. I think that he's a little bit too cocky for where he's at the moment, and I don't know if people will like that. The fact that, you know, I know that's his thing. That's cool. You can still do that. But I think there's a little bit of give and take with the fans. And I don't know if the fans are on side, especially against someone who is so over like Trick. I don't know if Ricky Saints is going to have that opportunity before they bury him completely in this storyline. And then there's kind of no return. So I do think that Ricky Saints is on thin ice at the moment. I don't think that's his fault. I think this is just the direction they're giving him, and sort of he's so in and out at the moment. We're not really seeing enough of him come onto the picture. I mean, with Carmelo Hayes coming into the storyline this week, it's pretty safe to say that they've obviously moved on with Ricky Saints, which is a shame. But Melo pointed out that Trick won't answer him. He said he'll give Trick his flowers and said the title looks great on him and the crowd loves him. But that's only because Melo didn't decide to stop him yet. He said he made the championship into a championship while Trick made the title into an accessory. Again, it kind of goes back to the whole fighting champion thing, doesn't it? I was really enjoying the back and forth between Ilya Dragunov and Carmelo Hayes, and I feel that Ilya Dragunov is a totally underutilized wrestler. I think he's fucking brilliant. I think he's such a workhorse, and it baffles me that they can't find a place for him in this storyline or any storyline for that matter. Melo said if Trick and Yachty want a title, he'll give them a discount code for a replica on the WWE shop. Melo said the US title is the workhorse match of the night title and the title for hungry guys. Yeah, I think I agree with that, to be honest with you. As I just said, with the open challenge that Sammy started, Sammy didn't start it. You know, John Cena started it way back in the day, but you understand what I'm trying to say. When that whole storyline was going on, it was a workhorse title, and I was actually enjoying watching the storyline around the US title, and that seems to have slowed down now with Trick being the holder of it, and I don't think that's Trick's fault. I just think that they've put it on someone that they can trust to hold it, and it keeps Trick elevated into a good position, but unfortunately we're waning a little bit now, and I would like to see some matches with Trick Williams rather than him just being a furry coat that comes out with little Yachty every week. And again, I know I'm enjoying them, but I still want to watch wrestling. Melo said Trick's out here like he's had too much to eat, and he told Trick to prove him wrong. He asked Trick to put the title against somebody who knows him better than anybody, obviously referencing their storied history in NXT. He said he's not buying Trick trying to be the best US champion of all time. He said Trick may walk the walk and talk the talk with them, i.e. the fans, but he has 2 left feet and a mouthful of marbles when he's in there with him. Yachty asked Melo who he's talking to, and Yachty said that Trick has been nothing short to pure greatness. Shot at Melo. Yachty asked the crowd if they should give this young small man a match, which Melo didn't really react to, which is kind of a good thing, but it was a bit of a mug off that. I mean, did you have to call him small man as well? The crowd cheered yes, and Yachty said not to blow a blood vessel. He said Melo has his match next week, but not for the title, and he said titles are earned, not given, so no handouts. He said he's giving the match to give Trick his reps. He said when things get tricky, Melo will have no excuses as to why he can't get the job done. And Trick said he does know Melo like the back of his hand. He faked walking away and gave Melo a backhand pimp slap to leave Melo on his knees. Trick and Yachty were leaving, and while they were dapping, Melo hit Trick with a flip dive. So we're opening this up again, which is good. I know that the fans will be, very happy about the fact that Trick and Melo are going at it again. I can't say that I ever watched the story. That's fine. I'm here now watching wrestling day on day, week on week, and have been for a long time now. But NXT is just something that I never really got into. But I do know about the storylines, obviously, that they were involved in and that they do have a history together. So I hope that this gives us some decent matchups and hopefully this is something that we can build towards SummerSlam. You know, a pretty decent match there with them two. So, yeah, looking forward to it. Just, I think that more people should be in the picture overall in the US title. It says here, awesome stuff. And I really like that Trick minimised his talking here as it allowed Carmelo to get his stuff out on the mic. Yes, agreed. As well as Lil Yachty being able to shine. Yes, agreed. I really do think that Lil Yachty was very good in this. Lil Yachty has low-key been a bit of a revolution in pro wrestling in that he's showing what a serious pro wrestling manager can deliver. Yeah, absolutely. And I think he should stick around, to be honest with you, because I think he's doing a really good job. Yachty is proof as to why WWE needs to maybe try to cultivate some young talkers down in the performance center, maybe even bring in some public speaking specialists, poets and or rappers as prospects. I mean, I'm not like a huge fan of the celebrity involvement. I'm not mad about it if they were, but you know, it's kind of a one-off. Like every now and then you get someone that can actually do the business. You get a Bad Bunny or in this case a Lil Yachty. So I don't think we need to continue this all the time, but it's nice when someone comes in from outside the business and actually does a decent job, and it is very refreshing. And again, it sells the story. It says here, Melo really found his voice in NXT 2.0 back when Trick was his manager. Oh, okay, there you go. So I didn't know that. So Trick was his manager, and it says, I'm happy he was able to show some of it here. I'm really looking forward to this Trick Melo feud lasting years and years if done right. Yeah, I agree. I'm not super crazy on it at the moment. I don't know the history as well as probably other people. But hey, look, I enjoyed this segment. And if it can continue like this, then I can only see positive things coming with the three of them involved. Then we move to Danhausen in his lab with the zombified Kit Wilson and Miz hooked up to a machine. Matt Cardona walk in. Kit and Miz did Zach's old woo woo woo, you know it. Chant. Danhausen talked about having a match against Big Head JD McDonough at Madison Square Garden. Matt Cardona said he'll be backup to Danhausen if he needs it. And he said he already has backup. Danhausen told Zack Ryder to turn on his new machine and Cardona turned it on and it started to electrocute or body swap Kit and Miz because I noticed that Kit Wilson was saying awesome. So I don't know what is going on here. It's just a fun little segment, obviously, that we've been getting week on week. Matt Cardona, like, you brought him back and you've done basically zero with him. This is what annoys me because Matt Cardona is a great package to look at. And when you see him in ring, he's very good as well. And especially as Matt Cardona, I think that he done good as Zack Ryder, but it was a bit cheesy. Now Matt Cardona is the proper wrestler that we have, and they're not doing anything with him. And it does annoy me. It does fucking really bug me that they have wrestlers like him and they just can't find places for them. So he's unfortunately subjected to Danhausen skits. I don't dislike Danhausen. I enjoy Danhausen. I think he's a funny character. But I'm ready to move on from this now and actually get some context as to what's going on. It's been like nearly a month now of him just twisting knobs and Kit and Miz just sort of sitting there doing nothing, basically. So then we get Brie Bella with Paige versus Lainey Reed with JC Jane and Fallon Henley. And this went for 3 minutes and 18 seconds with Lainey Reed defeating Brie Bella. And apparently this was like Brie's first singles match in like 10 years or something like that, which is crazy. This match was short. Okay, I suppose. A little bit sloppy. They've written here, it's kind of a bit wild how it seems Lainey Reed is further along ahead in the ring than the wife of arguably the greatest technical wrestler in the world. Well, she has had 10 years out, so give her a break. As Cole alluded to, Lainey is fresh out of college with only 3 years of pro wrestling training experience. Wow, she's very early on. Anyways, yeah, another tired distraction finish in wrestling. But at least they gave Fatal Influence a bit of heat back. Yeah, I like Fatal Influence. I like JC Jane. Unfortunately, as I said before, I'm not an NXT watcher. I'd seen her in NXT. I've flicked it on every now and then, but I don't watch it regularly. And I do really like JC Jane. It says they still really need to put in some work to give Fallon Henley and Lainey Reid personalities and ethos. Yeah, I agree. Because if you're like me and you haven't watched NXT, you're seeing them come up. You might know JC Jane because obviously she was in the Rumble. I think they might have been as well. But they have no personality. They are literally just there. And to watch a singles match with one of them, Lainey Reid, in it, I am kind of like, why should I really care? I mean, I suppose that's the building blocks of creating these personalities, but even backstage segments, it's all been JC Jane really doing the talking. So, yeah, they need to do something here. I don't think they should break them up, but I definitely think they need some more singles matches with some other women on the roster. Even just some like mini side feuds with people. You know what I was saying about Julia earlier and her little thing going on? It would be great to kind of put the three of them in maybe a feud with these three. I know that they're obviously got the tag team feud going on as well, but just to give Fallon Henley and Lainey Reid something to do, you could put them with Blake Monroe, or you could have matches with Julia or something like that. So yeah, that wouldn't be the worst idea in my opinion. It says just to make them more than just being henchwomen, especially Fallon Henley, who is one of the strongest in-ring and character workers in the NXT. So, yeah, I'll have to take their word for it. But, yeah, I do believe that they probably were very bloody good. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here in the first place. Then we cut to R-Truth and Nathan Frazier having a hot dog eating contest. R-Truth, yeah, I don't know what's going on with Fraction right now. Again, the tag team division is just on hold for the time being, it seems. Truth won and offered Damian Priest a hot dog. The Wall Raiders pulled up. Eric asked the tag champions if they're taking them up on their offer or just going to shove hot dogs in their face. Ivar snatched Truth's hot dog and bit it. Truth told Priest, he just bit your wiener. Yeah, this is kind of stupid. But yeah, I'm not really too interested in this at the moment. I like Priest and Truth. Not too mad on the War Raiders, even though they are the AAA champions. But yeah, it's just a nothing segment really that could have... I mean, the matches have been so short so far. I would rather have just had a longer match instead of a segment like this. It's kind of a bit stupid, really. But hey, moving on. We get Finn Balor catching up with Cody Rhodes backstage, and Cody welcomed Finn to SmackDown. Again, there's no split really. It's just, okay, you're welcoming him to Friday, basically. Finn said he came to SmackDown hoping to face Cody as champion. I would like to see Finn Balor back in the picture because I absolutely loved the demon work that he put on most recently. I mean, some of those professional photos as well. If you go onto my Instagram, it's Luke Mania. I've got some on there and they're amazing. They really, really are good. Finn told Cody to go out there and get the title back, and Cody left. And then Finn's old Bullet Club homie, Tama Tonga, pulled up and told Finn that he got some advice from the elders last week. Finn asked what that has to do with him, and Tama Tonga snuck up from behind him and smashed Finn into a production crate. Tala choked Finn on the crate, and Tama said he's closing the books on everything from his past, and Finn is next. Tama Tonga and Tala Tonga feels to me like they're writing them out of the company, to be honest with you. Broken the MFTs up. There's not really much else for them to do. We don't really know anything about Tala Tonga, apart from the fact he's a big man, and they failed to capitalise on anything there. I mean, there aren't any big men other than him, really, and above Oba and Damien, and they're all tied up. So there's nothing really for Tala Tonga to do. I mean, they could just make these two a tag team, but hey, we're going to go down the Tala Tonga route. I'm pretty sure he said something to Shinsuke a couple of months ago as well, that he was going to do something, and that came to nothing. But yeah, Tama Tonga, not interested in this whatsoever. I'm just being honest. Just not a fan of this. But I do like Finn. I really like Finn. So I hope that Finn can do a lot of the heavy lifting if there is a storyline to come here. But I'd still just prefer to see him in the title picture with Cody. at some point, or in a program with Cody. It doesn't even have to be for the title. Create a feud with them two. As I said earlier, Cody doesn't need the belt. So I think we could do other programs with Cody that would be interesting to get the fans back on side as well, because I do think that the fans are a little tired of seeing him with the belt, and that's where them boos come from. But I don't think people hate Cody Rhodes. I just think that people are bored of seeing him with the title. So, yeah, I know that we're obviously going down the Finn and Tama Tonga route, but I'd definitely be here for the Finn and Cody route. So give me that. But we move on to our main event match now, which is Jey Uso versus Cody Rhodes to become the number one contender for the WWE Undisputed Championship. Don't know why, but we're here. And this resulted in Cody Rhodes defeating Jey Uso via pinfall in 9 minutes to become the number one contender for the championship. Now, I said earlier that I wasn't a fan of Jey, and over the hour we've been going here, I still am not. But this is what I wanted to talk about Jey. So I'm a Cody Rhodes fan. Just like a lot of you guys, I am a fan. Not a Jey Uso fan. And what I actually did was, when I was watching him at Night of Champions, I thought, week on week, I watch Jey, and I think maybe he'll bring something a little bit different. And it is kind of that fool me once, what is it? Fool me once, you're an idiot, or fool me twice and I'm an idiot. You get what I'm trying to say. And I think I've been fooled about 18 times now, or more, with Jey Uso. And I still believe sometimes that we're going to get something a little bit different from him, and we don't. And I just wanted to run through. I actually wrote down what the moveset of Jey was in this match. And I think this could act as a blueprint, because ultimately it does the same every single match. It's the same thing. And like I say, there's only about 4 moves. So this is what Jey Uso contributed to the number one contender match against Cody Rhodes. They had a tie-up, then he attempted a kick, and then he done a suicide dive. Then he slapped Cody, gave 4 punches, then he kicked him again. Then he attempted to kick him and failed. Then we got a Samoan drop. Then we got 3 more punches. He attempted another suicide dive. We got the Uso splash to pin. Cody kicked out. Then we got another kick. We got a spear after 2 attempts. He attempted another Uso splash. Then we got some punches back and forth again. Then, for some reason, he's trying to do the sleeper hold that he done on Gunther, but he never seems to lock it in because it's not his move. And then we got 2 botched crossroads, and I'm not going to say that was Cody's fault, because I believe with the crossroads, it's the receiver that actually does most of the work, and Jey fucked it up twice, and that was it. And every single week, we get the same 4 moves repeated in a row. We get kick, suicide dive, slap, punch, kick, suicide dive, slap, punch. Sometimes there'll be an Uso splash in there to finish it off. If he's going to win, it's probably going to end, obviously, with the Uso splash. But I just find him so boring to watch. And I still believe that Jey Uso is just an entrance at this point. And obviously, as we said earlier, they're trying to maybe move away from this with the warning shot bow thing that isn't really working. But yeah, just can't deal with Jey being in this picture all the time, because I just don't think that he's worthy of it. And I just want to cover on their thoughts on this match. Here it says, while Jey was a bit competitive here, it also felt like it was back to the tag division for Jey after a temporary stint back in the main event for King of the Ring. I agree. I think he should be back in the tag division. And I don't know why they've squashed the tag division at this point when they had the Usos. Like, we had the main event Jey Uso and we had the title run. He lost the belt. Then we got the Usos. The music changed. We went for a couple of weeks with them being the tag champions, and now he's back in the main event picture again. And it's like, if you're running the Bloodline story, you don't need Jey to be there. Don't get me wrong. I've actually enjoyed those moments with Jacob and Jey, and sort of Jey saying, acknowledge me. And Jacob's like, nah, fuck you. Like, I'm not going to acknowledge you because I only acknowledge the OTC. I like that dynamic, but that doesn't mean that he has to be a single star. He can still be the Usos with Jimmy. And yeah, I have to agree. It says it almost felt like he was put in the main event solely to deliver the Yeet train to Saudi Arabia for the night. which is actually understandable given how fun of an experience the Elite Train is to be a part of for fans. Yeah, that's what I said earlier. Absolutely. It's just almost like we're using Jey Uso as a bit of a marketing thing at the moment. Like, he doesn't have a great skill set in the ring. He's not very good on the mic, but what he can do is put a pair of sunglasses on, stand on the corner and wave his arms around, and everyone seems to do it. I think that most people would do that. I think if you walked into a bar, and this is from a TV show that I enjoy, guess the TV show. If you walk into a bar and say, USA, 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 people will start to chant it with you, probably. At least if you were in the USA. And I feel like it's kind of the same thing here. It's just, again, people are just sheeping on the fact that, yeah, we're going to eat for 10 minutes, and that is pretty much all Jey Uso is these days, in my opinion. It says, a little bit odd to see Jey and Jimmy on a mission on SmackDown, only for it to be a waste of a scene. Yeah, this is what I mean. It almost felt like that was left in the 3-hour show director's cut. Yeah, 100%, mate. This is what I'm saying. This show was so short because it was pre-recorded for the 4th of July weekend that we had scenes in here that made no freaking sense or didn't really need to be in there, and we've cut the wrestling time down. And it was obviously a shorter show. I think it rolled in at about an hour and 23 minutes. But yeah, the wrestling, it just wasn't a great show. And I know that it was recorded after the Raw live show, but yeah, wasn't a big fan of this. It says the match felt pretty one-sided in the end. I even thought it was a bit of a waste to have Jey kick out of a crossroads. That felt more like Cody's bad habit of cheap false finishes rather than protecting Jey. Yeah, I mean, again, this is I think, because of Jey's weaknesses. He can't go for so long because it's such a boring match because he doesn't bring anything to the table. Cody does. A lot of other wrestlers do. But when you're in a program with Jey, you have to do these false finishes because he doesn't bring anything else because he's not a good wrestler. So you have to kind of prolong this stuff and it becomes boring. That's my opinion. Says the finisher kickout spam has real diminishing returns in 2026. Looking forward to Sami versus Cody, as if WWE did accomplish anything tonight was that they established Sami as a vulnerable champion who can lose the title every night. That makes even the throwaway TV matches even more compelling because you could be in line for a title change at any moment. Overall, this was a fun and harmless episode of SmackDown. They tend not to give out anything really earth-shattering during the tape shows. No, well, we can attest to that. If anything, they did a good job with the standard storyline and character development. I would say 50-50. I like the Sami stuff, but most of it was just throwaway, as it has been in recent weeks with SmackDown, unfortunately. They've said, as a reviewer, this was a refreshing episode of SmackDown because the show is back to being 2 hours. Well, it was an hour and 23 minutes. Those 3-hour shows are exhausting for both reviewers and viewers. For viewers heading into the third hour, almost turns the show into background noise. Yeah, look, this is the one thing as we wrap this SmackDown episode up. I'd probably give it like a 2.5 out of 5. It was okay. I did sit and watch a lot of this because it was more digestible as an hour and 23 minutes. And I know that's very contradictory because I've just said it was too short. It might have not had a lot of content in it and the matches were too short. And they were. Both things can be true. Yeah, I think that with 3-hour SmackDown shows, I do tend to lose a little bit of interest. It does turn into background noise. The product at the moment is not the best. I think that across the board, if you go onto any social media platform, whether it be Instagram or TikTok or X, I think most people will tell you that they're not entirely happy with the product at the moment. And I don't know if we're going through some sort of transitional period up the top. I really, really don't know why it's got so stale. But there are some lights in there, you know, with the Roman Reigns and Seth storyline, Sami being champion, and the fact, as they just said, that he can lose it at any point during any show of any week is exciting. It keeps you on your toes. The women's division is kind of in tatters at the moment. I think that's probably because of injuries and things like that, but there's just too much going on, but it doesn't mean enough. I think that we need to condense some of this stuff or at least push it together. Like I said, with the with a couple of those storylines there with Julia and things like that, and JC Jane, that kind of stuff. I think we can blend that together and give us just more of a solid story. I don't think that the amount of stories, it's quality, not quantity. And I think that they're going for quantity. here a little bit in some of these storylines, whereas quality would be better. There's nothing wrong with having multiple people in a program. It doesn't just have to be 2 people all the time, because then we kind of go back to the Vince years where we would just do it over and over and over and over and over again. Again, I don't mind that so much, but it's not interesting enough to keep doing that. And obviously we move on to Raw now on Monday, and hopefully we get a follow-up of Roman and Seth and sort of the things that have been happening over there. But yeah, that is my review of SmackDown, and I think we're probably going to wrap it up there. And if you've got anything to say, and you've got your own opinions on SmackDown for this week, or any parts of the show or any parts of the business, you can get in touch with me on Instagram at itsLukeMania. But for today, I've been Luke. This has been WrestleVision. Thank you so much for listening. And if you enjoyed today's episode, tag yourself in by following WrestleVision on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening. And you can follow me on Instagram at WrestleVision Podcast as well if you want to follow the show. But until next time, WrestleVisionaries, I'll see you next week.